back. Episode 2, big chap.
Thanks, mate. We're still going.
Still going.
Happy
Haven't been
days.
cancelled yet. I'm going to be fair for the listeners. We actually you get these first 3 episodes dropped at the same time because apparently that's the way you're supposed to do it to help you get up those charts and get folk to notice that you're there. What else would help get folk to notice us, James?
Maybe subscribing on
That's
YouTube,
the
leaving us a review on somewhere nice.
That is exactly. And in return, we will explain to you the bollock of booking a lineup poster.
We will. We really will. And what a pain it is.
Do you know what? Because can you remember back to the innocent times when you were a fan and you looked at your download of your Glastonbury, your Leeds and Reading posters? Did it ever occur to you at all the heartache and misery that would have gone in behind the scenes for that?
No, not at all. And it doesn't occur to the millions of people that moan about the posters either, I don't think, nowadays. But yeah, it's there is a hidden world, isn't there, behind the scenes that no one could possibly imagine how painful.
Would you say without any hyperbole that it does? It's actually one of the biggest problems, other than actually getting the bands to be booked. It's one of the biggest issues and problems as a promoter is, and when we talk about billing, we mean how you see those logos lined up on a poster, be it any festival I take. I'm looking forward to hearing the difference between Art Tangent, the kind of crossover we have with the Damnation lineup, to 2000 Trees, which is a completely different market, if it's the same basically or not. But I mean, how? I mean, to answer that question, is it as much a problem as it is for yours and your festivals as for me with Damnation?
Yeah, I mean, 2000 Trees, and by billing, you don't just mean how high they are on the poster, it's how big the logo is in comparison to the person next to them or 3 rows below them. And yeah, that problem at 2000 Trees is huge, and has got worse. And this year, it just was a total disaster. I had 7 bands that were all arguing to be the highest one. 7. So usually you've got 2. And I have had, there's a couple of agents who I won't name at 2000 Trees. They know who they are though. That always fall out with each other about this via me. And you've got 2 bands competing with each other to be higher up the poster. Or it's, so the rule is you have to be, if you're bigger, you're to the left.
Yep.
And obviously, if you're bigger, you're higher. But if you're on the same line, you've got to be to the left. So I have these 2 agents arguing at each other about whether they should be left or right. And no one, when you talk about the public, no member of the public looks at a poster and thinks the band on the left is bigger than the band on the right, do they? They just don't.
Care. I mean,
no.
There's never been a fan that's went, well, you know what, fuck that, I'm not going to that festival because my favourite band was to the right of the band I didn't like. It's so bizarre. So I suppose to answer my question, 2000 Trees, is that in that indie scene, and is it even worse than it is in the sort of metal scene?
Yeah, so it is worse. And I have a bigger band budget at 2000 Trees. We've got a bigger capacity. So we're booking more bands that can sell 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, up to 20,000 tickets in London. And if you sell 1,000 tickets, you feel you deserve a logo on a poster and you deserve to argue over where it's going to go. And when you've got like 30 or 40 bands not arguing over the same spot, but arguing, I mean, you literally, because the way this works is you put it together in your head, right? You tell your artist, the designer, my brother does the 2000 Trees artwork. I tell him where to put the bands. He does it. We faff about with it. And then you send it to the agents. And at that point, you've got this agent saying we need to be higher up the poster, and like 10 other agents want to be higher. And it's just like an impossible, you cannot please them all. Or you can do what those 10 want and move them all up. Send it out again, and then another 10, a different 10 agents are complaining about a different 10 bands. And it's all like just this massive like dick swinging contest about like, I am bigger than you, I am like, we're more exciting than you. I mean, so at Damnation, how do you is there a way you decide how the band's bigger?
You know what, I mean, touch wood, I mean, I have been put through a ringer with agents. I've fallen out with agents about it, agents have fallen out with other agents about it, and it can get quite personal because it's basically, In London, we sell 624 tickets and they sold 582 tickets. So we're much bigger than them. Like in any given night, a lot of these bands could outsell each other in any given territory.
Yeah.
And then you get the crazy situation where one band's bigger in Europe, but never heard of the band. I mean, I remember way back to 2007, this only happened at the day of. There was a Cataclysm tour manager who was like, who the hell are Anunnaki? And why are they above us? Not on the poster by this point, but literally playing above us on the stage that he's shown up for. And at that point, that argument's long gone, mate, because the stage times are here. But that's how ridiculous. He was basically, in Cataclysm, a Canadian. He might have been a European tour manager, and he never knew anything about Anunnaki, which is fair enough. It's not his job to know. It's his job to be a tour manager for Cataclysm, but that wasn't his argument to have. And ultimately, I'd say for the first 3, Damnation 2005, 6, 7, it was just put on the poster. This wasn't really a thing. I mean, the best example I could have of that in the same year, when we done for people that are watching this on YouTube, what I'm showing is the 2007 Damnation poster has Creator and Anunnaki, the same size logos beside each other. Not because Anunnaki were ever as big as Creator or anyone was pretending to be, but Anunnaki were headlining one stage, Creator were headlining one stage, and that was just the way we build it. Now, if you tried to put that poster out today, you'd be setting fire. I mean, you'd literally, people would lose their mind if you tried to do it. But back then, it really wasn't this dick swinging contest that it's become. And 2008 was my first experience of anyone ever pushing back. We'd booked My Dying Bride and Pitch Shifter, and I think it was My Dying Bride's agent got in touch and said, our logo, although in the same line as Pitch Shifter, needs to be bigger than Pitch Shifter. And I was like, I was quite confused by what it meant. What do you mean? You're like, you're not even asking for your logo to be bigger. You're just asking for another band's logo to be smaller on the same line. This is before I even knew about it left and right. So it was just a wee bit of common sense, I felt. And everybody looked at it and no one ever complained. And I feel for like 2008 onwards, because this is what happens with these things. One band gets it, or one band causes a scene about a rider, using a drum kit, having a masseuse backstage, and then the other bands go, well, if they're going to fucking do it, then we're getting it too, because we're not getting the piss ripped to us. And the next thing you know, the domino effect happens. And then now it's got to the stage that, exactly as you say, we're putting out posters and 3 or 4 agents are coming back and saying, we should be bigger, we dig our heels in, because there is no answer. Because you can get quite petty with it. And ultimately, the way you're doing it is like, I don't particularly care how many tickets you sell in London. I'm not even promoting in London.
Do you not find that there's some agents that you know are going to be a nightmare as well? So that they get, and I actually, they get the benefit of being a nightmare because I send it to them first now.
Yes.
So I'm like, this agent, she's definitely going to complain. So she's going to get the poster first. Otherwise, it's going to be worse for me. But I mean, one of the ways it's got so complicated is how you decide. So I always used to go on London venue, but when I had all these bands at 2,000 Trees. They're all selling 3,000 tickets. There's like 7 of them selling 3,000 tickets in London. So then the agents started then using different. So they can't use London. So one agent said to me, this band they've done 2,000 tickets in London. They sold out Bristol, Cardiff, and they started naming cities. And he's like, and this other band only did 3-date tour of the UK. We're proven across the UK. And then he's like, then someone else is like, oh yeah, but look at the EU tour we've done. They're worth this much in the Netherlands.
But then James, it gets, look at their monthly Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify.
And then their Instagram followers or this and their Facebook page. And then you get some agents that sort of bundle it all together. Yeah. And ultimately, like most stats, if you find the angle you're looking for, you'll find it. Yeah. I mean, there'll be somewhere that you could get, at Hellfest, we were billed 3 slots above this band that you're trying to put above. And you're just like, it's also, because I've done that as a promoter back to agents. Like, here's 10 examples why, if we're getting petty about this, I'm thinking that this band should be the row above, below, beside, left, right. And you can do that for days. And then ultimately the agents come back and say, oh, we don't want to get like petty about it. Like, you guys don't want to get petty. I mean, it's like, all I want is to book your band and sell lots of tickets for a lot of people to come see them, and for them to sell a shit ton of merch, vinyl, have a great show, and hopefully boost their profile in the UK. What you want from me is to go and fight with another 10 agents about where everybody's bands are. And let's face it, I'm not talking about 6 or 7 bands that's doing 3,000. You're selling 3,000 tickets in a London venue, you're probably headlining Damnation. So it's the other bands in between that a lot of them haven't even been in it. I mean, Pig Destroyer, I'm plucking them at the sky because their agent didn't complain about any billing. But if they've not played the UK for 8 years, and the other bands play the UK 3 times, because what I'll do is sometimes I'll argue the case for a band if you're flying them over for an exclusive. You're like, this is the only time this band's either ever played the UK or in 10 years. And that's why I feel they deserve that bit of post, because I feel that it'll be a draw. Not that I believe for a second that band's bigger than this band, but then again,
No.
is that what the billing's supposed to be?
Well, the agents also use that. So I've had that at Trees. This is an exclusive. But do you think that's going to work on the other people that are complete? It's like, and also, let's not forget, they're lying to you as well. So they say, yeah, we sold out the Forum in London recently. And you go back to the other agent, you go, oh, yeah, no, that band sold out the Forum. And he's like, no, they didn't. Let's see this. They're giving you the wrong. That's
an
a lie.
An agent told me last year that the band had sold out like the Underworld or Islington Academy, and I clicked on the site, the tickets were available. It was the lie was uncovered in like 10 seconds. He's going, oh, I mean close to, and you're like, this is insane. This is utterly insane. And what's the result? What's the result? So 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, you would see the Brutal Assault poster, and it was an 80s head, and I think that they chose to do that right off the bat first. It was just their style, 80s head, and I hated it. I still hate them. Like, you find your favourite band, Zealand Ardor, and they're fucking after every single band in the poster. Yeah. You know, it's like, it makes no sense to me, but I can see why now. Oh, I mean, so that Download are doing 80s head. Outbreak's almost entirely 80s head on the headliners. Hellfest get that section where they do the logos, and then you get an 80s head section and a minor 80s head section.
Yeah.
And it's just, who's that benefiting? Because it's certainly not the band.
No. I mean, it's the coward's way out, A to Z, isn't it? I don't actually mind how, I mean, I never say anything nice about Live Nation, but I don't mind how Download do it, because you've got like tiers of bands.
Yes.
And like, if it's like the headliners and then the next 9 big bands in alphabetical order, that's kind of okay. But when you do the whole thing in alphabetical order, it's very difficult as a punter to really understand what the hell's going on. Like, who are the big bands? Who are the ones I'm supposed to be excited about? And I'm all for discovering new stuff, and that is great. And that's why I love booking my festivals, so people discover their favorite new band. But when you book Metallica, you want Metallica massive on your poster.
Well, to be fair, I don't think anyone's ever managed to get Metallica in an 80s head poster yet.
No. Well, my favorite one of this year on other people's, because it's quite fun watching other festivals go through billing hell, isn't it? And even when you don't know them, you can sometimes see it. So somebody sent me the Download poster, and before it had come out, like, it was a booking agent actually. He's like, don't share this. This is the lineup. And the next day it came out. And Pantera, I don't know if you remember the first Download announcement, but Pantera were on a line entirely on their own. And it made the whole poster look absolutely bonkers, because they were just like, there's bands on lines, and then the next line is just Pantera. And obviously there'd been a big fallout. And in the space of 24 hours, that poster had gone from looking reasonably well designed to just like, what the fuck what have they done here? And you just know that that's presumably Pantera's agent being like,
there's
we're Pantera.
There's another one for this year. I don't want to mention the event just in case I'm talking out of turn, but there was definitely 2 special guests on the main stage who were completely the wrong way around in any context. And I was like, that's a fucking odd one. I mean, I swear to God, if I was dealing with the agents, they would be on to me. And then, lo and behold, the next poster comes out, and they're switched to the other side. Like, there was somebody had an argument away behind, and that's what happens. You end up tuned into this petty bullshit yourself. You end up tuned into like, oh my God, somebody's went and complained about that poster, and now those bands that are the exact same size were switched from left to right because that one's got the sales history in the UK and the other one doesn't.
But have you ever had more? Because that might be that there's more than one version of the poster. So I have had the situations where there are 3 versions of the poster, right? And most of the God, I don't know if I'm talking too much here, but most of the booking agents are unaware of that, right?
You're definitely talking too much.
The 3 bands in question are aware that there are 3 versions of the poster. and that they're all going to use their version, and we as a festival will rotate our versions.
Oh, man. I mean, and you're talking these are for minor things. This isn't for your headline bands.
It's not
This isn't like you switching about.
No, but it's for
big enough bands,
but it's not. Yeah. You wouldn't do it smaller down. And when you ask about 2000 Trees versus Arctangent is way easier because the reality is, sort of 80% of the lineup aren't actually really worth loads of tickets on their own. Bands that people really love, like Mountain Caller. I'm not picking on them. They're a great band, and they're a perfect band to have at Arctangent, but they're not going to go and sell out like 1,000-cap venue in London. So those sort of bands aren't arguing. They're not arguing the billing. So we've got like so few bands are actually arguing at Arctangent.
I mean, in two points for that. First off, you, despite all the billing headaches you had and the difficulty of using moguls and how big they are and where they need to be placed, you still did come out this year with your 2,000 Trees the way that you've always done it. It looks spectacular. Then you booked Explosion in the Sky, Mogwai, Meshuggah for Arctangent, and I was like, oh, honest to God, finally Mogwai. If he got the band, it's Mogwai. Yeah. Explosion Sky, another great, Meshuggah, brilliant. Like 3 top drawer headliners. Cannot wait to see this poster. I cannot wait to see it come out just in all its splendour. There's your dinner.
Yeah.
And then we had day splits.
Yeah, well,
what was the difference between the two festivals?
Yeah, so look, I think let's just make this podcast so that we'll just be honest, because I don't think the agents are going to listen to this. So I'm just going to tell you.
No, let's not be too honest. I don't want to end their careers. I'm just no, let's not be too honest about it. If you could just say, look,
look, at the end of the day, Mogwai, my number one band, right? This is an exclusive. No one knows this really. Mogwai, the number one band that I wanted to book for Arctangent, they were our ideal headliner, and I had finished the booking. And Mogwai, we'll talk about Mogwai another day, but they suddenly became available. And I was like, I don't give a fuck about anyone else. I'm booking Mogwai, basically. So I don't give a fuck about the budget, and I don't give a fuck about the billing. I am gonna be in hell on this poster. I know it straight away that there are 2 or 3 bands that are
need to be shifted.
Yeah. And they've been shifted, and it did cause a stink, and I'm sorry, but Mogwai at Arctangent is the like.
Do you know what? I've had that fight, James. I've had that fight in the sense that something becomes available, not quite to the extent of here's a fresh headliner as big as Mogwai, but I've had like something's became available, and they're clearly the slots have been taken. Let's say the top 5 slots in the main stage have been taken, and they've been agreed to where they're going to be. And I'm like, if I agree something, that's the way it's done, right? But then this band becomes available, and you're like, well, let's be honest here, guys. Ticket sales are not spectacular. This band being added to the bill could certainly add an extra 1,000 tickets to the bill. Your band's going to play to 1,000 more fans. Potentially fans that are not fans of your band as well. You're going to sell more merch. You're going to the whole experience for the band, money-wise, playing to more fans, everything about it's going to be better. And I'm not going to lose money. Can we just see some sense here? For the sake of you guys playing the same in a situation like that, if I've agreed a 50-minute slot, I'll make sure that it's still a 50-minute slot. But your slot might start at 4 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. You know what I mean? It's like it's almost irrelevant. But that in itself can be a whole big fight. And even at that point, it might not be the fact that somebody's disagreeing that the band that you've now got available to you is bigger or not. They'll agree they're bigger. They're just like, no, we had this slot and we're fighting for it. And you're a bit like, come on.
And they're not really buying into they're not buying into 2 really important things. One is, like you said, the bands will play to more people, which has got to be good. And the other one is the festival is giving you money every year. The agents are earning money from the festival, and festivals don't survive forever, right? Unless they're successful. So if you can sell tickets by booking whoever it is, you should do. And to be honest, that's why I try to be really cagey when I agree with agents where they are on the lineup. Unless it's like the headliners, I'm always a bit like, this will be an evening slot. Yeah. And then you've got some ability to bump them down. They don't even know they've been bumped down.
I mean, I feel the agents are getting switched onto that as well, and they want, especially if they know
of course.
if they know your event, it's like, right, which one is that on the, like, is it 3 down, 4 down? And that's difficult. That's difficult. I mean, let's again pluck one out of the sky. Say, let's say Julie Christmas, who I booked last year, you booked this year, and you go and the agent goes, right, okay, so is it 3 down in the main stage? And you're a bit like, okay, that sounds great. But then you get 4 bands that no one's arguing about being bigger than that. It's like, collectively, does Julie Christmas, does the agent, does Damnation, do we all want to lose that band that's bigger? Because are we going to come to some sort of agreement? And not to say that that's always the case. Sometimes agents go, right, okay, fair enough, we can work with this. Just make sure we get the same production, same set length, we get the same dressing room, and that jazz.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, it's an interesting example because he is definitely listening to this. That agent, he's listening.
Everybody loves Hayden. Can I tell a wee side story about Hayden as well?
Yeah.
So earlier, and then Lynn, who you've booked for this year. So he's they play that show in London and absolutely level the place. So the following day, because they're such a Damnation band as well. It's one of those bands that are perfectly fitted for Art Tangent and Damnation. The next day, it's just a stream of people on Facebook. This band's incredible. It changed my life. If you book this band, I'll marry you, Gavin. It's like, inbox. Hello.
He's on your forum. He's seen the comments.
He's a sniper. He never says anything, never comments, never likes, but just hello, any interest in earlier, and then I'm like, come on, man, this is our own fan base is working against us here.
Amazing.
But fair play to Hayden. Listen, you want to be a good agent? That's definitely what we do. It's hard to argue. That I don't really think they're worth that money, Hayden, when he's literally showing you screenshots of people saying how much you love them.
Yeah, that is a tricky one, isn't it?
Aye, some boy. So, do you feel that? Do you feel here's an example where I could see how it's got worse over the years. Just what I mean is, when the band's behind the scenes, they saw things that they're a bit like, that wouldn't bother us, but what bothers us is the fact it bothers them, and then we've paid the price for it. You know, the point you just made about it's bad that the agents are the toughest agents are the ones, or the most difficult agents are the ones that get the benefit of then seeing the poster first. Now, my example that was Napalm Death. They played Damnation 2008 under Pitch Shifter on the second stage. Came, played, smashed the place like they always done, and left. No hassle, no problems, everything you'd expect for a Napalm Death show. When we booked him again for 2018, so 10 years later, nothing had changed with Napalm Death. I mean, Napalm Death will be what they are and continue to be for that. It was like, we must headline. Like, the agent was like, we must headline. I was like, well, that's a wee bit out of the blue from literally no giving a shit. Like, it could have been opening third stage and we just threw it up. And I spoke with Shane Embry from the band, and I was like, what was the script to that? And I had my suspicions. It was a case of they probably just showed up at one too many events and had bands that hadn't paid their dues, that hadn't done what Napalm Death had done, or shown no respect to Napalm Death, build above them, taking riders that they weren't getting, making demands that they weren't getting. So Napalm Death, the kind of band that show up and you have no problem like swapping the backdrop, they'll just play whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, we're here to do some grindcore, put a show on, let's go. And you get the other bands that just refuse to go on the stage until everything's to that. And a lot of these bands are not Napalm Death in stature. And ultimately, I think that's what happened.
So it wasn't the agent, it was
it was the band. I mean, any agents doing it. So it was a case of, no, they're just sick, fed up. They've been doing this for 30 years. They are absolute godfathers of the scene. And they're a wee bit sick and tired of other bands just being the ones, being the version of that agent. They get the agent gets to see the poster first, and then they're the ones that get shafted.
Yeah, although all that does is add another layer of, like, it's not just London ticket sales or Spotify plays, it's also now, which I get a lot, this band these are legends. Yeah. Like, somehow, Sleep Token have sold out the O2 Academy, but this band are legends. You know, it's like, okay, so, I mean, we're going to go higher up the billing because we're legends. It's really difficult. So I've got this, the band playing Arctangent this year called Clowncore. And I had 3 agents when I sent the poster out ring me up and say, who the fuck are Clowncore? And I'm like, well, they just sold out the Forum in London, so they're bigger than your band. they are bigger than your band. And then you get the but have they really sold it out? But yeah, so it's weird, isn't it? Because they're not legends. I mean, actually, the people in the band are sort of famous musicians, but then they haven't paid their dues. They're just a one-off, straight to the top of the lineup kind of band. But
it's funny. So you send me the poster in advance, and I'm looking at it, who the fuck is Clowncore? You know what I mean? And then I was like, so I go and listen to them. I'm like, this is, don't get me wrong, they sound that much different for like battles.
Yeah.
So I mean, it suits that. I totally get it. I was a bit like, it's no for me. And then a video get posted on the Damnation Facebook the other day of the live show. And I don't know if this is a live show that our Tangent fans are getting.
Yeah, it is.
The full thing, and it's basically you've got it's like a proper Nordic Giants experience with the visuals as well. And I was like, I could be very much into this on a.
It's going to be fucking mad, honestly.
Saturday night Art Tangent.
Yeah. It's going to be good. But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing I was going to say about is I always have these arguments with agents where they're saying that my band shouldn't be on the same line as this band, and my reply is always, look at the Hellfest poster or the Download poster, and some years you might have Biffy Clyro next to Iron Maiden, because that Biffy are headlining Friday night, Maiden or Metallica headlining Saturday night. But we're not suggesting that those bands are the same size, are we?
Yeah. I mean, surely the same line thing. I mean, once you've already conceded the left-hand spot to the right-hand spot, you're a bit like, no, you're saying your band is bigger. We've conceded that point, so I don't understand where we're going with this, because you're right. When Metallica go to the top of these bills, if Avenged Sevenfold or Gojira or Ghost, one of the other headlines, they're still the same. It's not like Metallica just sit lording it over. Well, they could rightly say, look, that's just, we're bigger than every one of these bands put together, so we don't want to be the same size 9 Inch Nails and Ghost and Gojira, which they were when they done that Hellfest. But that's when it starts to get, I mean, like, right, okay, it's not just a Metallica show or whatever that band is, but I mean, do you see it? I mean, I don't want to be Mr. Misery, but do you see it getting worse? Because it looks like it's just going to keep getting more petty. That ultimately these A to Z New Times Roman posters that are given. I mean, let's take another example where I feel that's really not worked for the band. Poison the Well are the most exciting and sought after band on Outbreak, and when it got announced, everybody was talking about Poison the Well. They're buried in the middle of the poster, no logo, down where the P is and the A to Z lineup. You're like, that. How does that help Outbreak? How does that help Poison the Well? How does that help sell tickets?
Yeah, it's really weird that I think I agree with your example. It did jump out at me. It is getting worse, and like I don't want to be all like woe is me, but in January with the Arctangent and Trees announcements, it really caused me like a significant amount of stress, like personal stress, where you're spending days just people ringing you, and argue. It's just like arguing with one person, thinking you've got a solution, going back to the other person, and you haven't, and you're bouncing back and forwards, and it's like, is anyone enjoying this process? But it feels like it's definitely getting worse, definitely taking more time. You don't make any money out of arguing about a poster, do you? And like, so I went out the front of my house to do my recycling, and my neighbor said to me, "Are you all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm having a really bad day, to be honest. I'm having a really bad week. It's really stressful." And then he's like, what is it?" And I got about 3 words into it, and I was like, "Fuck, you can't really explain this to someone who doesn't work in the music industry." Because my wife is a nurse. She's worked in A&E a lot, right? Yeah. And she's like, "Will you stop fucking being stressed about a poster? It's a poster. No one cares."
It's a weird one because in the sense of they're completely right. I mean, how could you possibly go out and speak to your neighbour who's maybe just lost his dog or his fucking sister or something and having his own tough week, and you go, "Oh, by the way, my Dying Brides agency's pitch shifters logo should be smaller on the poster." You know what I mean? It's like, what are you talking about? And also in the world that you're talking about as well, I mean, it's so fucking niche to start with. It 90% of the population wouldn't even know the biggest bands you're referring to, never mind the egos that you're dealing with. And the second bit of that, because I remember I had 2 points to ask you earlier. I only asked one about why the Arctangent poster wasn't the same way. The problem is, like, when you're sitting here, right, and you've got a poster in front of you, and ultimately, if you could have a private conversation with all agents and it's upsetting people, you would happily move stuff about and just make it. But see, once the poster's sent, that's when the battle lines are drawn, because it's not the fact that one agent might or might not concede to their agent. They're just not going to do it publicly. So they're not, once it's out, they're a bit like, so then it comes back to, strange enough, it goes full circle it's your event, but you don't really get to say how you want to put your own event poster together anyway, you know what I mean? So it's like, you tell that other agent that I don't care how many tickets they sold in London because you've done the poster and this is the way I want it kept. And then the other agent's going, no, I want to argue that. So that's, at what point do you say this is the level, the line that I'm drawing? Because if you've got 99 bands in the poster, you can't send it to 99 different agents or managers. So at what level do you go, right, okay, I'm doing the top 15 and then I'm having my fight from there?
Well, yeah. I mean, it does depend who the agents are, again, because sometimes you'll have a very big agent with a small band. So, and you've had big bands off them. So then I'm going to send them the poster and let them argue about it.
Yeah.
But you definitely work your way down. And at some point you're like, I'm not sending this to anyone. These people are not going to see it until it's like ready to go. But that has its own danger attached to it, because then it can blow up in your face 30 minutes before the announcement. Yeah. Like I felt like the last 2000 Trees one was never going to go out. It was just never going to get approved. And actually, I mean, do you ever send artwork that someone has literally said no to? Do you ever release it? Because really at Arctangent this year, the January announcement, it wasn't approved by a couple of people, and they were really pissed off for me.
I don't think we've definitely sent lots of artwork, and fucking the vast majority of it, without the approval, without the nod. Because do you know what? I found it very early with agents, with managers, with tour managers, that the more you give them to say no, or like, here's an example. Probably shouldn't say this. That when we first done the first damnation, Entombed complained to us that we never get the right to put the Entombed logo on the back of the t-shirt, right? So I was like, oh, rookie error, okay. So in 2007, 2008, I would go to bands and say, listen, it's okay if we use your logo on the back of the official merchandise. And what happens? Obviously, everybody sees an opportunity, wants to abuse it. So then it's like, pay us 5%, give us 10 free t-shirts. You can only use it when it needs to be that side. So what you did is you opened up a lid where you thought you were trying to fix a problem and created 10 new problems. Yeah. And by 2008, I stopped doing it. You know how many times anyone's ever said to me about the logo getting used in the back of a t-shirt or any other festival t-shirt? Zero. Not once. Entombed were in a bad mood that night, and I got it, but I've been a rookie at this. I fell into that trap. I had to deal with all the problems for a couple of years and then just stopped doing it. So sometimes with the posters, it's about like, the headliners know where they are. The rest of it's pretty much common sense. I'm just going with it, and ultimately I'll have the fight at the other side. When it comes to the bigger level of bands, where they are getting artwork approval first, and it comes to like one band's just not going with another band, it comes to the point that just like you have to say, look, this is what's happening, or you're coming off the poster. There is no. Again, back to that point, you sold 22 more tickets in London the last one, or you don't like. I had an agent for the 2022 poster who had this weird complaint about one band being in a level and another band, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I found out later that the band that he didn't want, he wanted further to the poster, was a band that dropped him. So it was a completely personal thing in his point. He wanted to take revenge on his band that dropped him because of this band or something. I guarantee 2 weeks earlier, when he was still representing him, that band he would have wanted to roll up. So sometimes you're getting into these situations where with some petty bullshit that you have no part of.
Yeah, but do you not think that see, I really respect what you just said, but you're, because we know each other quite well in how we do our jobs, you're much less tied to agents than I am.
Yes.
So partly because you have less bands on your lineup. So you're not doing favors. You book the bands you want to book every year.
Yes.
So they really need you. But they're only going to get you if you want to book them. Whereas for me, I've got lots of agent relationships where it feels like, they've just taken on a new band and, give me a £200 slot early on a stage at Arctangent or 2000 Trees. And therefore you seem to have I have a much more entwined relationship with them, where I can't just go, no, take your band. There are some agents that I absolutely cannot say, just take your band off the poster then.
So that's really a sad indictment of how the industry works, because it shouldn't be that level of favours and nepotism and you scratch my back ass. It's a disservice to the bands that they represent, that ultimately, if you say no to some baby band, as they're called in the industry, that ultimately you might not get offered their big band, which that band might have zero fucks given about that baby band or their career. So that is a sad, and it's true. And there's two things that I realised because I would hear this, because basically when I started doing the Damnation Versus podcast, I realised that the relationship was different from how my experience it was. It was like agents were lording it over the promoters rather than, not that I lord it over agents, but I don't expect or demand anything for agents, and I don't give them anything back. You get on Damnation because you're due to get in Damnation, and Paul and I want to book you. There's nothing else to it. And then I would do it, and you'd realise, oh, the reason that guy who does this for a living in Glasgow or Birmingham or Manchester is going to lose £800 guaranteed with this band here is because the next time Fall Out Boy or Sabaton or fucking Queens of the Stone Age are coming back through town, he's going to get the promise of that. So he basically has to, it's an unofficial handshaker. You're just going to have to swallow these losses because when the profit's there in the big bands. And that's a sad state of affairs that you basically you need to. So fortunately for me, and let's say there's a lot of things that I've lost out in because I don't have a lot of an amazing relationships with agents. There's maybe a lot of bands that we have missed out on as a festival that I would otherwise have if I'd played that game better. But then what? Then what happens when I go to bed at night? You know what I mean? And I'm lying there, I'm like, I really wanted to give We Lost to See that slot, but it's not there because I had to take some band that I don't believe in to put in my third stage just to make sure that next year I might get a headliner.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. Although I would, because we should have called this podcast like two promoters slag off booking agents.
It's not even slagging off. It's just it's pulling back the curtain. I'm not slagging off. Yeah. These guys are doing their job. They're doing their job and they're doing it well. It's just this is our side of the
argument. But one of my point would be, just to give their side a tiny bit, is that for me booking, I book in like 300 bands a year, and the agents are actually there listening to that. They're basically going and discovering the next level of talent. So they are playing a really important role for me. And like somewhere in the world, Spotify, there are 10,000 new bands in the rock and metal world. And so you need someone like magazines and booking agents and managers to go out there and check those out and decide which ones are good.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got time to listen to 10,000, right? So it's not like you book every band the agent sends you, but they, I don't know, what's a good example? Like Bob Villan, the agent, I get on really well with him and really respect him. And he said to me, this band are great. They'll be perfect at 2,000 Trees, book them. And I was like, yeah, I trust you. I've had a quick listen. They're great. And they've blown up. And, one day they'll headline 2,000 Trees, I should think.
Yeah.
And he takes the credit for that equally as much as I do, I think. So there is like a balancing act.
Yeah. There's also a reality. This is what I would do if I was an agent. What I would strive to do is like, there needs to be some sort of contract here. You need to, if you want me to go in and bust my balls to get you and as much as I get, it needs to be like a year, 2 year term. There can't be the first time that you guys have a spat or a bigger agent come and taps you on the shoulder. You're just going to go more, because that's the crux of the issue. Now, these agents, we're sitting here giving our point as promoters for these events and the problems that it leads to. But these agents, this is their livelihood. This is how they put food on the table. They need to protect their relationships with these bands, and these bands hold the power over them daily, that they could just drop them and move to the next agent. So then you get, because what I've found more recently is when you go from an agent to the manager, the things calm down significantly. Like all the demands, and you think it'd be the opposite because the manager's the one there who's got that relationship with the band and managed them. But the manager doesn't have that same fear of getting the bullet as the agent does for whatever reason. So a lot of times with these crazy demands, it's really just to placate the band. And sometimes the band might not even need placated. There might be a case that the band would be fucking happy where they are on the poster, but the agent's just always trying to do the best they can for it. And maybe that's just the rule. But I suppose if it gets to an A to Z New Times Roman, my argument would stay the same. How does that help the agent, the band, the promoter, the fan?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally agree. But you hit on an interesting point there, which is like, why do agents care about this? And it's because they're terrified. Because basically there's no contract between the band and the agent. That's not how it works. They don't have a contract. So bands move around. Some bands move around a lot, and you're like, bloody hell, they've got another new agent. And so what that means is if you are like Slipknot's agent or Opeth's agent, they are making you a lot of money, and you are terrified about them leaving
Yeah.
because the moment they leave, the money stops. At least if you're the manager, you probably earn money for a long time off previous shit that's happened. But if you're a booking agent, that
I
doesn't hold. So
doesn't transfer with it.
yeah, so they're scared. So they're like terrified. They're going to make a big fuck up with a billing, and the band's going to be like, you know, why am
Aye.
I alongside
Aye.
creator? Yeah.
Why am I beside creator in the
Yeah.
2000s?
Yeah.
Who the fucking I know
The other
now?
way around, wasn't it? Actually, I got it the wrong way.
Aye, oh man, that's true. That's true. You actually put me off my point. I was going to ask you. We're trying to keep these to 20 minutes. Completely overrun on the episode 2. So we'll very quickly give a shout out to the sponsor, Lou's Brews, hot sauces. Does them for damnation, Arctangent, download. If you're a hot sauce fan, please go check them out. louisbrews.co.uk. Pod 15 gets you 15% off your first order. And to wrap this up, we'll keep it nice and quick. Let's recommend. Like we're talking about billing, right? Our festivals. Let's recommend a band that are on one of our posters. I'll start. Gillian Carter. A band honestly came out of nowhere. Let's give credit to apparently this agent's a guy who plays in Slow Crush, a guy called Philippe, and he came out of nowhere, dropped this email, do you like fancy Gillian Carter? And I was almost typing like we don't book acoustic singer songwriters when I went and checked them out. American screamo. I mean, they call this new terms power violence, but it's screamo. It's like back in the day, proper screamo. It's like Tosha Moore if they were, I don't know, getting set on fire. They're absolutely incredible. I'm obsessed with this band. Booked them. One of these bands as well. When you book, like, you're not booking them to sell tickets for damnation. You're booking them for it to be that surprise package when you walk in. And go, where the fuck did these guys come from? You know what I mean? So they've got the new album is a Salvation Through Misery, and if you go to Spotify, the top tracks Abandoned, Lost in Time, and it's 1 minute long, and you'll know by the end of that 60 seconds whether you're in or you're out, because it's very deliberately low quality production and a bit mental. But if you're in, I tell you, they're absolutely blinding. That's my pick.
I've seen a lot of love for them since you announced them. So people are discovering them through you, which is quite a satisfying thing, isn't it?
Yes, this is what we do. So how do you stack up to that, James?
Well, I'm going to recommend a band called Slift because it's my album of the year so far. They're headlining the third stage at Arctangent this year. Their album's like it's quite a journey. It's like 70 minutes long. It's really hard to describe, but they were previously, I think, kind of a psychedelic band, but it's got a lot heavier. So I think it's like if Sleep formed a band with the Mars Volta and added in a load of weird psychedelic influences. It's basically that, but the songs are memorable, albeit long and sprawling and proggy and heavy, and yeah, it's like Doom, but psychedelic Doom. Fucking great. I really love it.
I feel like that they're a band, that name that's kicked about for a bit, but that last album must have hit the sweet spot, because I see people talk about Slift now.
Yeah. I've toyed with booking them a few times at Arctangent, but it's never quite come off. But yeah, this album's just made me die for it. But they're popular. I mean, they're not. I don't know exactly where they sit in the sort of between the different genres and worlds and who are their fans. I suspect that a lot of their fans are more like psych fans probably, but I think it's like they're a heavy band, and it's honestly fucking great. The album is. I've no idea what the album's called. I don't really do album names.
I honestly, if I hadn't written it down, if I hadn't written down Salvation Through Misery, I would never remember that myself. Yeah. So good, nice bit of positivity at the end of that. If you're listening, agents, we do still love you. We do still need you, at least at damnation. So don't cut us off. The next time, what are we going to do? We're going to be positive about Slayer.
Yep, we can do that. I can be positive about Slayer.
I will talk to you next week about Slayer, pal. See you after.
Lovely. Cheers.